It was raining that morning, one of those heavy, endless rains that make the whole world feel gray and cold. The kind that seeps into your bones, making you remember every pain you ever tried to forget. Amelia stood outside the towering glass building, clutching an old leather file to her chest, her worn-out shoes soaked through. Her heart pounded so hard she could almost hear it echo in her ears. She had come to pay a debt that wasn't hers, but her late father's. A debt that had haunted her family ever since his company had collapsed and left their name in ruins. People whispered about it in the small town she came from. The tailor's daughter is going to the city, to face the man her father wronged. She wasn't here to beg. She was here to make things right. If you believe that kindness, forgiveness, and second chances can change even the hardest hearts, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Every click spreads another story of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Amelia had spent 3 months saving for the bus fare to come here. 3 years working double shifts in a bakery just to gather the little she could to repay her father's loan. It wasn't enough, not even close, but it was all she had. Her father had borrowed from a powerful company years ago, when his business was failing, and when he couldn't pay it back, shame had crushed him faster than the debt collectors ever could. He passed away soon after, leaving Amelia and her younger brother to face the wreckage of his dreams. Now, she stood before the very building that once destroyed her family's name, ready to do what she thought was right. Inside, the air smelled of fresh coffee and money, two things Amelia hadn't known in years. The marble floors reflected her soaked figure, and people in sharp suits brushed past her as if she didn't exist. When she gave the receptionist her name, the woman frowned and asked her to wait. Then, a security guard led her up, higher and higher, until the city outside looked like a painting. The office she entered was vast, framed with floor-to-ceiling windows, and at the center of it sat the man everyone in the business world whispered about, Alexander Wolf, CEO of Wolf Enterprises. He was known as cold, ruthless, untouchable. But when he looked up from his papers and saw her, his expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Maybe it was her trembling hands, or the exhaustion in her eyes that reminded him of something he'd lost long ago. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, placing the file on his desk. Inside it was every cent she had managed to gather, every proof of her effort. She told him she had come to pay her father's debt, slowly, honestly, until the last coin was returned. He listened quietly. For a long moment, he said nothing. The rain outside filled the silence, tapping against the glass like 1,000 tiny reminders of time slipping away. Then, with a calmness that shook her, he said, "You owe me nothing." She froze, unable to understand. But he continued, his eyes unreadable, "What your father owed was paid the day he tried to build something good. The world can be cruel to men who dream. You don't owe me money, but if you want to repay something, then have dinner with me." She thought he was mocking her. But his tone was not cruel, it was tired. Like a man who hadn't shared a meal with anyone who cared in far too long. Amelia didn't know what to say. All her life she had imagined this meeting as a confrontation, a plea, a moment of justice. But this unexpected kindness, shook her more deeply than anger ever could. She hesitated, but something in his gaze told her this wasn't about business. It was about loneliness, his, and maybe hers too. That night, she sat across from him in a quiet restaurant at the top of the city. She had borrowed a simple dress from a friend, her hair tied back neatly. He ordered food she couldn't pronounce but made sure to explain every dish with gentle patience. He asked about her father, not about the debt, but about the man he was before the failure. Amelia talked for the first time in years without feeling ashamed. She told him about her father's laughter, his kindness, how he used to give away food to workers who couldn't pay. And for the first time, she saw something shift in Alexander's eyes, regret. Because years ago, when he was a young businessman trying to prove himself, it was men like her father he had crushed in his rise to the top. He had learned to see people as numbers, compassion as weakness. But now, sitting across from the daughter of one of those men, he realized what success had cost him. Days turned into weeks. He would invite her sometimes, to dinner, to coffee, to visit the company's charity projects. She was hesitant at first, unsure if this was pity or something deeper. But Alexander was never inappropriate, never demanding, just quietly present, always listening. For the first time, Amelia saw that even the powerful could be broken inside. He told her once, in a rare moment of vulnerability, that he had lost his wife in an accident years ago, and since then, he had forgotten how to live for anything but work. His wealth couldn't fill the emptiness, and his empire couldn't silence the nights that felt too long. Amelia, in her own way, began to change him. Her laughter softened his walls. Her honesty reminded him of everything real he had forgotten. She never asked for money or favors, she just treated him like a person, not a headline. And he began to look forward to her presence like a man who had finally remembered what warmth felt like. Still, gossip began to spread. Employees whispered about the big girl from the small town, and why the CEO was spending so much time with her. Amelia tried to ignore it, but one afternoon, she overheard two executives mocking her weight in her background. It broke her heart. She had fought so hard to earn respect, and now it felt like the city was laughing at her again. She packed her things that night, leaving a note on Alexander's desk: "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't belong in your world." When he found the note, something inside him cracked. He realized that in trying to fix his past, he had found something he couldn't lose, a reason to feel again. He searched for her everywhere, driving to her small town in the pouring rain. When he finally saw her standing outside her father's old tailor shop, soaked and shivering just as she had been the first day they met, he got out of his car and simply said, "Then I'll come to your world instead." The neighbors watched in stunned silence as the city's most powerful man walked through puddles to stand beside a woman everyone had once pitied. He didn't care about reputation or headlines anymore. He cared about the only person who had seen the man beneath the suit. He told her that night that she didn't need to pay debts, wear fancy clothes, or change who she was. She had already given him more than he could ever repay, his humanity back. Years later, people in the small town would tell the story of how the big girl, who came to pay her father's debt, ended up healing a lonely man's heart instead. The old tailor shop was restored, not as a business, but as a community center funded by Alexander himself, where young people could learn skills, dream again, and find second chances. Amelia ran it with the same warmth her father once had, and Alexander visited often, not as a CEO, but as a man finally home. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that love can grow even in the most unexpected places, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps more stories of hope reach those who need them most. Speech balloon special request. Tell us in the comments below, do you believe love can heal even the deepest loneliness? Your words might be the light someone else needs today. Heart.